If you're an INFJ, you've probably known your whole life that you're not normal. You may have tried to blend in. You may have played along. But deep down, something always felt different. It's not that you're trying to stand out. In fact, most INFJs would rather stay under the radar. But something in the way you see, feel, and move through the world just doesn't match the way most people operate. You notice what others miss. You ask questions that go deeper than the surface. You struggle with small talk, fake smiles, and empty interactions. You feel too much, think too much, and need more space than people understand. And no matter how much you try to normalize yourself, it just doesn't stick. The truth is, the INFJ is not meant to be normal. You weren't designed to fit in. You were built to see differently, to care more, to think deeper, and to bring a perspective that most people don't even know is missing. And yes, that can be isolating. But it can also be powerful if you know how to lean into it. This video is about the real reasons the INFJ feels far from normal. Not because something's wrong with you, but because something is very, very different. And that difference is often your greatest strength. We're going to break down 6 traits that set the INFJ apart. These are not weaknesses. These are the deep structures that shape your mind and your soul, and they're the reason you'll never fully blend into a crowd. Let's start with the first reason you're not like most people. It has to do with how you feel things, not just more deeply, but in more directions at once. Reason number 1. You feel multiple emotions at once and deeply. Most people feel one thing at a time. Happy, sad, angry, excited. They move through those emotions one by one, like stepping from room to room. But for the INFJ, emotions don't work like that. You feel many things at once, layers of emotion, all connected, all real, all intense. You can be joyful and heartbroken in the same moment. You can feel hope and fear without contradiction. You might smile and still feel empty inside. Or seem quiet while inside your mind is flooded with waves of emotion that don't make sense to anyone else. This isn't about being emotional for no reason. It's about complex emotion. You're tuned into the inner world, yours and others, at a very deep level. You can feel the sadness under someone's laughter. You can sense the tension behind polite words. And because you're picking up so much, you carry more emotional weight than most. This makes you compassionate and wise, but it can also make you overwhelmed. While others shake off a bad mood quickly, you might sit with it, unpack it, feel every side of it. Not because you want to, but because you can't not feel it. It also means you don't react the way others expect. When someone asks how you're doing, you pause. Because the truth is rarely simple. You're not just fine or bad. You're fine and confused. You're grateful and tired. You feel everything all at once. This kind of emotional richness is powerful, but it can also make you feel disconnected from people who operate more simply. You might try to explain how you feel, only to get blank stares. Or you might hold it all in, thinking no one would understand anyway. But this depth isn't something to hide. It's a sign of an advanced emotional system. It means you can hold complexity, offer real empathy, and process life with depth most people can't even imagine. That's not normal, but it's definitely not wrong. Reason number 2. Your intuition sees more than what's obvious. NFJs don't just think, they know. Not in a logical, step-by-step way, but in a quiet, steady sense of truth that rises from deep inside. You pick up on things people don't say. You notice the undercurrents in a conversation. You can meet someone and feel like you've known them for years, not because of their words, but because of what you sense beneath them. Your intuition isn't magic, but it's close. It pulls information from small signals, a glance, a tone shift, a pause in someone's voice. You store patterns in your subconscious, and when something doesn't align, your whole system reacts. You might not know why you feel a certain way, but you know it's real. This inner radar guides your decisions, your conversations, and your relationships. You often know something's off before anyone else does. You see the ending before the story even begins. And while others call it a gut feeling, yours comes with clarity and accuracy that's hard to explain. People don't always believe you. They want proof. They want logic. And because you can't always explain where your knowing comes from, they brush it off. But you've seen it enough to know you're not guessing. You're reading patterns most people ignore. This makes you hard to lie to, hard to manipulate, and hard to fool. You see motives. You hear what's not being said. You know when someone is hiding their real self, and even if you don't call it out, you feel it in your bones. Your intuition also guides your vision for the future. You can see possibilities, outcomes, and patterns long before they arrive. You're the one warning people of a shift that no one else sees yet. And when it happens, you're not surprised. You already knew. This way of seeing makes you different. Not better. Just wired differently. While others need time and facts, you just feel the answer, and more often than not, you're right. Reason number 3. You need long periods of solitude to process your inner world. INFJs are not just introverts. You're not simply someone who likes quiet time. You need solitude on a much deeper level than most people realize. Time alone isn't a break from the world, it's your lifeline. It's where you sort out your thoughts, emotions, and the energy you've picked up from everyone else. Your mind is constantly running. You analyze conversations after they've ended. You reflect on things that others already forgot. You feel other people's emotions as if they were your own. And if you don't step away and process all of that, it builds up until you shut down. You're not being antisocial. You're not avoiding people. You're simply built with a very sensitive internal system that needs silence to stay balanced. Without it, you feel drained, overwhelmed, and even disconnected from yourself. This can confuse others. They might take your need for space as rejection. They might think you're being distant, cold, or uninterested. But what they don't see is that your alone time is what makes your presence with them possible in the first place. During solitude, you recharge your energy. You return to your core. You reflect on your life, your goals, your relationship. You think deeply, not just about the past or present, but about what it all means. You connect the dots. You rediscover who you are outside of everyone else's needs. And when you return to the world, you bring that clarity with you. You show up more grounded. You listen more fully. You engage with intention. But without that solitude, you slowly lose that ability. You become foggy, anxious, and overstimulated. What makes this trait so different is how much time you need. A quick walk or short break isn't enough. Sometimes you need hours, or even days of low stimulation to feel like yourself again. And that's not something most people understand. But this is your wiring. You process deeply, so you need space deeply. It's not a flaw. It's how you stay whole. Reason number 4. You care more about meaning than being liked. The INFJ doesn't chase approval. You want connection, but you won't sacrifice your values to get it. You could be in a room full of people and still feel alone if the conversation is shallow. You'd rather be misunderstood than fake. And that makes you very different from people who shape themselves just to fit in. You care about meaning, about honesty, about emotional truth. You want your words to matter, your relationships to be real, and your time to be spent on things that go beyond surface-level success. You question trends. You avoid empty praise. You'd rather speak truth than keep the peace. This doesn't mean you're unkind. You're actually extremely thoughtful. But when something doesn't sit right with you, you can't pretend. You won't laugh at a joke that's cruel. You won't agree just to make someone like you. You won't stay quiet when something feels off. And while this gives you integrity, it also makes you stand out in a way that some people don't like. You might be called intense, too serious, overly sensitive. But what they're really reacting to is your refusal to be shallow. You don't perform. You show up real. This commitment to meaning also shapes how you live. You don't chase what everyone else does. You don't follow paths just because they're popular. You'd rather have a quiet life filled with truth than a loud life filled with lies. And because of that, you're hard to influence. People can't sway you with status or attention. You're motivated by purpose. You ask why before you act. You look at the cost behind every decision. And once something loses its meaning, you walk away, even if it means being alone. That kind of strength is rare. It's also misunderstood. But for you, it's the only way to live. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be real with yourself and the world. Reason number 5. You observe quietly and respond with precision. Most people talk fast, react quickly, and fill silence with sound. But INFJs do the opposite. You watch. You listen. You wait. While others are speaking, you're processing. You're taking in tone, body language, hidden meanings, and emotional shifts. You're not just hearing words, you're decoding the entire experience. You don't speak until you've thought about what matters. And when you finally do speak, your words often land with surprising weight. People stop and listen, not because you're loud, but because what you say cuts through. It's clear. It's true. And it comes from real thought, not just impulse. This makes you different. In conversations, you're not fighting for attention. You're holding space. You let others talk. You make people feel heard. But when the moment is right, you respond with something so precise that it shifts the whole room. You don't need to dominate a conversation to guide it. You influence through calm, through insight, through choosing your words carefully. And that's something people aren't used to. In a world that rewards fast talkers, your quiet thoughtfulness is often underestimated until it's not. Because when you finally express what you've been observing, it often reveals something no one else noticed. You call out the tension under the jokes. You bring clarity to confusion. You remind people of what's real when everyone else is caught in noise. This ability makes you a quiet force. You don't interrupt, you intercept. You don't react, you reflect. And your words carry power because they aren't constant. The downside? People sometimes forget you're even there, until they need clarity. But that's okay. Because when you do speak, it matters. You're not part of the noise. You're the message hidden inside it. Reason number 6. You've seen through facades and reject superficiality. From a young age, INFJs can see what others try to hide. You look past people's words and notice the truth underneath. You've watched smiles that weren't real. You've heard kindness that felt forced. You've been in conversations where no one said what they actually meant, and you saw it all. You don't do well with superficiality. Small talk, fake laughter, social games, they feel heavy, even if everyone else thinks they're normal. You want connection that's real. You want people who show up fully, without pretending. And when they don't, you pull away. This isn't about judging others. It's about protecting your energy. You've been through enough to know that shallow people take more than they give. They exhaust you. They talk without listening. They surround themselves with noise so they never have to face anything real. You've seen that. You've been there. And you've outgrown it. This ability to see through facades makes people uncomfortable. They might not know why, but they sense you're not buying what they're selling. and that makes you a mirror. You reflect back what they're hiding, and some people don't want to see that. But you don't do it to expose them. You do it because you can't unsee the truth. Once you know someone's being fake, you can't go back. And that makes relationships hard to build. Not because you don't want connection, but because you can't settle for the version of it most people offer. You're far from normal because you'd rather be alone than surrounded by half-truths. You would rather have one real conversation than a dozen surface-level chats. You would rather go deep than stay safe. And in today's world, that makes you different. But that difference matters. Because every once in a while, someone else shows up without the mask. And when they do, you meet them fully. No performance. No filter. Just real connection. And that's worth waiting for. Being INFJ means standing apart in a world that runs on noise, speed, and surface. You move differently. You feel more. You see through things most people don't even question. And because of that, you've likely been told you're too quiet, too intense, too distant, or just too different. But what they call too different is actually your design. You were never built for shallow living. You're here for depth, for truth, for connection that changes people, not just entertains them. And that's not normal, not because it's wrong, but because it's rare. You don't need to fix that. You don't need to tone it down. You don't need to shrink just so others can feel more comfortable. Let them talk louder. Let them move faster. You're not missing anything by moving in your own way. The world needs people like you. People who feel fully, speak honestly, and see what others pretend isn't there. That's not a flaw. That's a gift. And the more you accept it, the more power it gives you. So no, you're not normal. You're something else entirely. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be.